long, but I just wanted you to get in here and appreciate this. Got a few more coming.
Did you get a count?
Then we'll huddle up in a few minutes, but I wanted to bring up a very important point.
So it was over 7. Let's show you. Come on, Chuck, get in line.
Sound off.
I think you guys are all brave because this trail's 12 miles long. I can't believe you're going to do it today. But that's round trip, of course. It's only half a mile. All right. Just for a few minutes, I want you to appreciate that, as Chuck's counting it off.
Wait, just over 7.
Okay.
Like 71, 72.
Now it's two, that's the size of 2 Confederate companies. Fairly large, but yes, officers and men, that would be the captain, the lieutenants, the sergeants, the corporals, and the privates. Infantry companies, this is 2 companies, all right? And he counted off 70 whatever men. At the peak of this battle, there will be 550 Confederates behind this part of the wall only, from where they are at the end over there to over here. So just imagine what that would look like. All right, so obviously you don't line up, there's not enough room, you're basically 3 to 4 ranks deep. And at first when I was reading Union soldiers, they would say, because we saw the Confederates behind the wall 3 to 4 ranks deep, and I thought, oh, that's a typical over-exaggeration that you always see from the opposing side. Now you know that it's true, right? It would have had to be at least that much for them to, like, they'd have to work in sync, right? Fire, the front line fires, they move back, the next line comes up, they fire. I don't know how well that got coordinated, but I'll bring you up to the history. Now you can close up here, because we're going to look out this way. So bring it in. And then I'll face toward you, and you guys can face toward the front. We'll form a semicircle here. And I'm not mic'd or anything, but I can talk pretty loud. If you can't hear, then you make sure you tell me. Bring it in. Okay, so I left you at the pavilion here talking about map 6B. Where we are now, just so you know, you see there's a fence, a wooden fence line that basically followed our route along the path. It's where this tree line is right now. The Rose Hill Estate's over there, all right? We are at inside the second perpendicular wall, and you guys had just passed that perpendicular wall over there. When we get to the trail, since I'm told it's the exact same distance, we're gonna actually walk past it. You're gonna see that perpendicular wall. That is original wall. This is not. All right. That original wall. The story was they thought that when they were moving stones for the museum, they thought that was the main stone wall fight. They preserved that one and took the stones from this one. They got a little disoriented on it, but there was a little bit of a base that you could follow. And for those toward the end of what I remarked before we start our walk, if you want to take a quick look at the end, it's very bushy here now. Back in 1862, this was all cleared. There would have been no trees up here, or very few, all right? In fact, when I first came out here in the 90s, I could see up to the clear ground. There's a ridge spur that really pops up toward the end here. You don't appreciate it except for the height of the trees. We're still basically on the downslope of that western base of Sandy Ridge. All right, so now we're a little after 4 in the afternoon. The 21st and the 27th Virginia that I talked about over there, they are up this ridge spur, about a little over 100 yards away from us, in line, firing against Tyler's men who are coming out of that. You see the trees in the distance. That was a woods back then. This was all open. And they're coming out to challenge them. That's your map 6B. And after 15 minutes of trying to loosen up from that packed column, they're unsuccessful because those 2 regiments up there are doing a good job keeping them in check and wreaking enough havoc to keep them in place. So the commander of that force, Erastus B. Tyler, will go to the 3rd Regiment in line, which is the 1st Union Virginia. Now, I am going to predate West Virginia 1863 statehood in 1862, and I'm just going to call it West Virginia, okay? Because we have all Virginia troops on the Confederate side. Let me just call them West Virginia for now. So the 1st West Virginia, which they will be renamed once West Virginia becomes a state, is led by Colonel Joseph Thoburn. He was the former surgeon of the regiment in 1861. He was there at the first land battle of the Civil War at Philippi in Barber County, West Virginia. And he is now the colonel. And the 3rd Regiment in line, Tyler requests that he grab as many of his regiment as he can and shift over to this unguarded portion of the wall, which it was back then. We weren't behind it, okay? There's nobody there. Just those regiments up there. So Thoburn, whose regiment probably is in the neighborhood of 300 officers and men, will probably be able to rally about half of them, about 150 of them. And much like 15 days, whatever Gettysburg is, 17 months later, Armstead putting his hat on the tip of his sword to lead his men in Pickett's charge. It's exactly what Thoburn does. Precedes that by quite a bit. And his sword still exists in the family. Scott Patchen has had it brought here by the family members, so they got to see how it was used. Has his hat on it, and he will lead 150 men from deep in that area, coming on a circuitous movement toward this part of the wall. All right, undefended, but as they look out into these fields, when they're less than a football field away, about 80 yards from us, there will be 2 regiments coming out of nowhere, Confederates, that will come to this part of the wall. And that's the 23rd Virginia, and under Alexander Galt Tolliver, Colonel, and the 37th Virginia under Lieutenant Colonel Robert Carson. The colonel of the 37th is in charge of this Demi Brigade. That's Samuel Vance Fulkerson, and he is here too, and he will write about it. They had been the ones that were trying to flank at Pritchard's Hill and took most of those 80 casualties in the morning hours, or early afternoon hours, excuse me, that I talked about. And 30 whatever years later, I still don't know how they got over here, but they cut across the entire face of Sandy Ridge, probably behind the Virginia regiments, and found this open section of the wall and lined up behind it. Now 500, even after their 80 losses, they still have over 500 officers and men. So you already demonstrated for me and for yourselves, knowing that they had to be just in a big mass here, right? As they line up behind this wall, shoulder high, and they leveled their smoothbore muskets on it. Now muskets, firing distance, somebody tell me the range? Accurate range?
100.
Actually, that's if you, let's just say it's less than 100. I would say 70 is pretty decent for an aim shot, but it's buck and ball they're going to use, so they're going to create a little mayhem. The best use of a smoothbore is here, because you can just rain terror on any troops that are approaching within that distance, which is exactly what the 1st West Virginia was doing under Thoburn. So they get to probably about 60 yards from this wall when the 37th opens fire. And I still remember the account from a lieutenant named Orr, who wrote at the turn of the century, not this past one, the century before that, early 1900s. He said, "I don't know if I hurt anyone during the war or not, but if I did, it was on this occasion," okay? And sure enough, you add up the casualties, probably just in one volley, 40 members of the 1st Union Virginia go down, 1st West Virginia. Thoburn miraculously gets 6 bullets through his clothes, by my count, and they don't touch his flesh, but one of them does break his arm. And he falls, and he's trying to rally his men by waving his sword from the ground. They will pull him to that wood line in the rear, pull him to safety. In the meantime, several members of the 1st Union Virginia, man, it's so overgrown today, you'll have to see the walls we walk around it, will jump behind that perpendicular wall. But right at the corner of the junction of those walls, Fulkerson judiciously places his Lieutenant Colonel Carson Fulkerson was a judge, so I use that very judiciously, places them there, and they fire away and knock them back. Why am I bringing all this up? It's only about 10 to 15 minutes and it's all over. Now, when I first came to this ground, there was no reconstructed wall back then. It was before any preservation was going on here. I came with a really good guy. His name was Jim Tubising, and he was one of the first people to do metal detecting when it became popular in the early 1960s, okay? So he was the first one that actually was scavenging this area. Now, he didn't do a true level 1 or level 2 archaeology, but as close as you can get to it. He could tell me where the heaviest concentration of bullets was found, spent or dropped. He knew all of that, and where the lightest concentration. And what he said he saw here on this side of the wall was drop shots, not as many as he expected, very few spent shots overall. And what does that tell you? And it's confirmed by the letters. After that 10 to 15 minutes, this area is relatively unengaged for the next 2 hours. The battles started here 10 after 4 or so. It's over before 4:30, 20 after. And not until after 6 o'clock is this area moving, because all these Confederate troops will see blue-clad soldiers, Union troops on their side of the wall up on the ridge spur, coming toward them, and they will evacuate in that range. And 253 of them will become the first invited guests of Fort Delaware Prison. They're going to get captured, okay, back at Neal's Dams, which is the equivalent size of a regiment, right? 250 people. And that's a bigger loss than a slight wound. We don't think of captures as a severe casualty, but they don't get exchanged until August, after the Valley Campaign's over. So they're out for the rest of the campaign. You could be wounded in this battle and be back in action in a week or two if it wasn't a severe wound. These guys are gone for good. So being captured is a severe casualty for the side that loses you, even though, and if you're treated poorly in prison, it could be even worse than getting shot by a bullet, right? So they're captured. So that's what I know, is that they're going to be 10 times you, over almost 600, not quite 10 times, and that includes a couple of companies of the 4th Virginia that are here as well. Everything I explained, and I apologize, I forgot to show you it, is map 6C, the back of this map 6B. So you see where we are right now is where the 23rd Virginia is against the wall. See that? Do you guys see the 23rd? And then this is where Fulkerson is hit, right in this field. You're looking, if you hold it like this, you're looking right toward it. Got the idea? See what's going on there? My apologies for not bringing that up earlier. So everything else on the Union side is now scattered. They're all fighting on their own hook. Their leaders are unable to organize them for any charge against the wall. It's a lot of smoke and noise being produced here. So if you are this whole wall is about 400 yards from this end to right before it stops right before the bypass Route 37. It's about 400 yards long. Where we are now is almost a mile and a quarter from the height of Pritchard's Hill, where the Union commander Nathan Kimball is, and he's getting reports that they were unsuccessful at moving these troops. The Union objective is to capture the Confederate guns that are on Sandy Ridge. We're going to be at their position at our next stop, firing away at Pritchard's Hill. They would have come in at the rear if they were unopposed, but what started out as 230 members of the 27th Virginia, then became 450 when the 21st Virginia joins them, and is now at about 1,000 when you bring in Fulkerson's guys. And then when Garnett brings the rest of the Stonewall Brigade, there will be 1,800 Confederate troops from here all across that 400 yards, except for that little point where you can't defy gravity on the deep ridge spur. There'll be a little gap where the 4th Virginia is, but for the rest of it, it's covered. And what do you need to dislodge a good defensive line with artillery support? What ratio?
3-1.
At least 3 to 1 if you're going to bull rush it, all right? And the Union troops, although the old accounts suggest they had 10,000 men, there's only 5,000 Union infantry engaged this day, and only about little less than 4,000 that ever attacked Sandy Ridge. All right, I want you to keep that in mind. All right, I know we're not all math whizzes here, but we know that's not even 2 to 1, or barely 2 to 1, right? It's barely 2 to 1. And yet, by the end of the day, what did I already give away? That the Union troops get over this wall and fight. Whenever that happens, it defies military doctrine. That's why the ratio is established, right? If you say you need 3 to 1 based on precedent and examples and what they would teach you in staff rides in military school, if you defy that, something went wrong or something went very right on the other side. We're going to approach that again. I want you to think about it, and we'll answer the question because I don't want you to lose sleep tonight. We're going to answer the question, all right? But this defied military doctrine. The Confederates should have held this. There's no reason for them not to. They had enough men to hold this position. We're going to learn why that didn't happen, all right? Any questions about what I covered here?
Yeah, Gary. Are we in the middle of where the 27th is on your line 6B? Or map 6B?
On 6B, no. On 6B, if you're looking at we're above the 2 S's in glass for the William Glass.
Okay.
All right. And on 6C, we are at the 23rd Virginia. All right. I believe my next maps are what's the last? Oh, okay. Now, while we're here, before we start our 12-mile trek, all right, on the trail, on map 6E. Where you see Tyler's brigade stalemated, look at all the Confederates behind that wall now. The time is now 4:30 to 4:45 in the afternoon. The sun sets at 6:12 on March 23rd, 1862, and it will be pitch dark within 40 minutes after that. So by 7 p.m. After sunset, there won't be any more fighting here if it's still going on at this stage. A lot of stuff is going to happen close to sunset, which we'll pick up at our next stop. But that's the case. Now, I just wanted you to see map 6E to show you their full deployment. You see all those little tiny black icons on the Union side? That's all representing companies. They're all spread out on their own hook, taking advantage of trees, rocky outcroppings, little ditches, little swales, trying to get a good position to fire at the troops behind the wall. Most of them are carrying rifles, some Springfields, a lot of Belgians at 69 caliber, what they call pumpkin slingers, which cause more harm to the person firing it than the one being fired upon, because they had a big back kick and it was very unreliable. But they're close enough to be able to knock off a lot of Confederate troops. And here's an obvious one: where are the Confederate troops going to get hit? Upper body and head, right? Union troops will, because they're firing down, can get hit anywhere. I bring that up because I found the casualty list of the 23rd and 37th, I won't keep you in the sun much longer here, in the Virginia Historical Society, and they listed the type of wounds they all had. They said artillery wound, lower body, artillery, lower body, which couldn't happen here because there's no Union artillery over there, and they're getting hit in the lower body, right? So where did all the killed and wounded of the 23rd and 37th occur? When they attacked Pritchard's Hill earlier in the day. Come to the anniversary tour. How's that for a sales job, KBA folks? Come to the anniversary tour this coming March, and you'll learn that whole story. You'll be doing a version of Pickett's Charge on a smaller scale, and you'll see the harrowing approach that they had to endure to do that. All right? All right, we ready for the trail walk?
Ready.
We're ready, let's do it. What we're gonna do is we're gonna just walk on the asphalt and pick up the trail. I have never been on this trail. I've been on this part. We're gonna walk past where Tyler first attacked. I am not gonna present there, but as you walk by, I'll stop and point it out to you as everybody's walking by me, okay?